Welcome everyone to our Spring Women's Party. My name is Rose Park and I'm the director of the Women's Program at the Advocates for Human Rights. And even though we can't be together in person, it is wonderful to be connected with you all virtually. I want to thank all of you for logging onto your device tonight, and especially our host committee for their engagement in tonight's event. Our goal is to raise $40,000 tonight. And thanks to generous individuals who are matching donations, your gift will go twice as far. A few housekeeping announcements before we begin. We are recording this event, so if you prefer not to be shown, you can just simply turn off your camera. And we will also have everyone muted to minimize the background noise, but I encourage you to please say hello and introduce yourself in chat. You will find that chat function at the bottom of your screen. And we will also have breakout rooms at the end of the event for conversation. And you will get to choose which breakout room you want to attend at that point. So before we start the program, I want to recognize our fabulous Women's Program team. So Women's Program, please give a thumbs up or use the thumbs up reaction. Great, thank you. They do incredible work. We make tremendous inroads because of our really amazing team. Now I'd like to recognize anyone who has ever volunteered for the Women's Program. So if that is you, please give a thumbs up or a thumbs up reaction. All right, excellent. This is great to see. And I just want to thank you for all you do. We absolutely could not do our work without you. Now, there is something that we all share in common with each other and with women's rights defenders around the world. We make noise. And there is some noise we need to make about recent events, including a tragedy just last week, the Atlanta shootings. So much of the talk has rightly focused on the racism inherent in the shootings, but we have to ensure we do not lose focus on the sexism in those shootings as well. The suspect in that case claims he needed to eliminate his sexual temptations created by the Asian women. His statements not only reinforce sexualized stereotypes about Asian women, but they also suggest diminished accountability because of the possible commercial sex trade nature of the massage parlors. Such talk of temptations, in turn, that stirs up the age-old practice of blaming women for men's bad behavior. We see this excuse repeated over and over again. She was flirting with another man, so he beat her. She drank too much, so he raped her. And in this case, the women were a temptation to him, so he killed them. This shooting was a gender and race-based crime. Intersectional violence perpetrated against women because they are women and because they belong in a particular group. We cannot let women's rights be eclipsed by racism. Rather, we need to take into account gender and race, gender and sexual orientation, gender and ethnicity, gender and gender identity, gender and socioeconomic background. We need to see the full picture. When we bring different movements together on the intersectionality that permeates abuses against women, whether it's the Black women's lives lost at the hands of police violence, women with intellectual disabilities who are sexually assaulted 7 times more often, or women immigrants who are fleeing gender-based violence in their home countries, our voices are louder because we come together. And our voices are needed not just at home, but around the world. Just last Saturday night, Turkey's President Erdogan announced that his country would withdraw from the Istanbul Convention, the most comprehensive treaty on violence against women. The convention is a powerful tool for women's rights defenders around the world. But Turkey's announcement sends a dangerous message to the world that women's lives, like in the Atlanta shooting, are expendable. Femicides, or the murder of women because they are women, have increased 4,000% since 2011 in Turkey, and reached a high of 474 women murdered in 2019. This threat to women's rights is not new. Turkey's policies have grown increasingly hostile to women's safety and equality over the years. These changes include restricting access to contraception, narrowing women's abilities to divorce by limiting their alimony, and even the proposed marry your rapist law, all of which ultimately was building up to the withdrawal from the Istanbul Convention. Turkey's rejection of the convention is even more concerning because it sends the green light to other countries to follow suit. Our partners in Turkey are speaking up for women's rights. And as with intersectionality, when we come together across movements, across borders, and across oceans, our voices are stronger, louder, and noisier. When rollbacks like this happen to women in other countries, they do not stand alone. We stand with them, and we will lend our voices to the fray. And I also invite you to use your voice in defense of women's rights. After tonight, we invite you to write to the Turkish embassy to urge Turkey not to withdraw from the convention. And that link will be included in the chat, so you can take a look for that. And we will share that later as well. And on your social media, I encourage you to use the hashtag Istanbul Convention Saves Lives. And together, we can raise our voices for women. Now, I would next like to welcome the members of Waves of Change Minnesota. Waves of Change Minnesota is a local nonprofit organization of high school girls who volunteer in our communities. And what makes this so special is that we have youth using their voice for women to live safe and equal lives. We are delighted to feature a performance of A Beautiful Noise, sung by Caroline Cronin and her teacher, Carrie Noble. And afterward, we will hear from Caroline Cronin, Casey Cronin, and Katie Anseth.
We think it's important to give a voice to people whose human rights are being violated because we believe that the world isn't really safe unless it's safe for everyone. While singing this song, it made me reflect on the meaning behind what having a voice truly is. It made me realize that we all have the responsibility to come together and advocate for those who cannot stand up for themselves and do not have the ability to fight the injustices they face alone.
I believe that we can take action for this cause by recognizing the problem of human injustices. We can also empathize and understand what another person is going through, even if we do not have a personal experience.
Domestic violence happens more than we know about it. A lot of it happens behind closed doors that makes it hard for victims to speak up. We need to understand that the violation of human rights is happening not only in our communities, but all around the world, and that is a bigger issue than is perceived.
Having a support system is a vital part in helping victims of domestic violence, human trafficking, and other violations of human rights. Support systems come in various forms based on the situation, whether it is housing, employment, healthcare, or legal support. We can all fight injustices impacting women, such as human trafficking and domestic violence. More hands and more voices help spread awareness and help to take action for those who face these injustices.
Thank you so much, Waves of Change Minnesota, for all you do. I just want to give a virtual round of applause for your voices and for that special performance. A huge special thanks to Caroline and Carrie for that absolutely beautiful performance. I literally got chills and tears all at the same time. Thank you. All of you help raise your voices for others and bring women's rights to the forefront. Next, I want to introduce our staff attorney, Karin Long. Karin will be speaking about giving voice to the needs and wants of survivors of sexual violence here in Minnesota and how we can amplify these voices to build stronger protections.
Hi, good evening, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. I see so many people here without whom, honestly, we wouldn't be able to do the work that we do, so thank you. And it's really exciting to see, honestly, the dedication and the interest of the young women who have joined us tonight. And so thank you for sharing your music with us, and also for getting ready to be the next generation to keep doing this work. So my name is Karen Wong, and you know, I have a background. Before I was honored to join the Advocates, I worked as a prosecutor focusing on sexual violence in my career. And I really have always come to believe that the voices of survivors should always be central, that they know what they need, and we should listen to them and let them lead the way as we work to improve systems of justice along with them. So over the years of my career, sexual assault survivors have sought accountability by reporting their experiences to the police. But in the end, only about 10% of survivors actually see a criminal conviction in their cases. In 2018, the newspaper, the Star Tribune, wrote a series of reports about this lack of justice. It was called Denied Justice. Around Minnesota, brave survivors spoke up publicly about how the criminal system did not address their victimization. And following that, in 2019, the legislature in Minnesota commissioned a work group to study the criminal sexual conduct statutes and make recommendations for how the statutes could be revised to provide better accountability. And I was happy to join that work group. About 75 of us from around the state, representing various professions such as advocates, prosecutors, defense attorneys, and judges, worked to craft new recommended language for our criminal sexual conduct statutes. But a mandated group out of that legislative commission was survivors of sexual violence. And so there was a very diverse and very amazingly dedicated and well-educated and well-spoken group of survivors who knew what they needed. They were part of that working group. And so they participated as we worked to make recommendations for language changes in our criminal sexual conduct statutes. We drafted recommendations that have now been made into a bill that is making its way through the legislature. And the survivors made sure that those recommendations addressed the problems that they had experienced. And while it's a pretty complex bill, and I wouldn't bore you with all of it, I wanted to point out about 3 specific recommendations that were made because those survivors raised their voices. So first, we wrote some language that would improve access to justice for survivors who experienced sexual violence when they were too intoxicated to respond. And actually today, the Minnesota Supreme Court actually verified what we knew, which was that our current criminal sexual conduct statute only applies if the person is passed out or if they consumed an intoxicant that was administered to them without their knowledge or consent. Well, the new language that we're recommending is aimed at the more realistic experience that many survivors actually had with their intoxication. Second, we wrote language criminalizing the extortion or blackmail that can compel unwanted sexual conduct. Instead of relying only on physical force or intoxication to prove sexual violence, the new language addresses when, for example, landlords might require sex in return for rent that the tenant can't afford to pay, or if someone threatens another that they're going to share private sexual images, or threatening to report someone to immigration authorities, all to scare a person into performing sexual acts that they do not wish to do. And then third, this report that we wrote to the legislature included a lengthy section that was drafted by those survivors that was actually not about the statutory language, but was really about the systemic response that they had experienced. So from police who did not believe their accounts, to prosecutors who didn't file charges, and delays or silence throughout the process, The survivors voiced the changes that should happen so that victims can access justice without so many barriers. So our hope is that the legislature and other systems professionals will hear their voices loud and clear and take action to make the changes that these survivors have spoken up for. This bill has been heard in the Minnesota House of Representatives and has a lot of support there, but it has not been heard in the Senate. If you want to help, please urge your local senator to support Senate File 1683 to implement these survivor-led changes. We would welcome your help, and thank you again for being with us tonight.
Thank you, Karin, for highlighting this absolutely crucial work to expand protections for victims and survivors. And thank you for your great work to bring these voices forward into law. I would like to now turn it over to Jim O'Neill, our board chair.
Hi, everybody. Good to see you. Did I get it unmuted all right? Very good. Well, it's good to be with you all. You may have heard me say this before. I like to say that the Advocates for Human Rights is dedicated to a proposition. The proposition that each and every human being, simply by being human, has concrete and protectable rights to safety, dignity, freedom, and the chance for a better life. Throughout history, women have faced particular challenges in making sure those rights are a reality. Every advance in women's rights has met strong opposition. Every success has generated a backlash, an attempt to claw back what people work so hard to achieve. Every step forward has required dedicated work by courageous defenders of women's rights to accomplish it. The Advocates links with and supports a network of such courageous defenders all over the world and here at home. We bring to them our expertise in international standards and justice mechanisms. We bring to them training in human rights methods, such as how to do fact-finding, how to lobby their own governments, and how to bring their concerns to the United Nations Human Rights Council and other such government bodies. Just within the last week or so, one of our longtime partner human rights defenders, a woman from Albania, told us that she credits the capacity building done by the Advocates with Albanian human rights organizations for the fact that that country now has a very strong law on domestic violence. It's successes like those that keep us going. We bring to our human rights partners not only the power of brilliant staff members like Rose and Karin, but also the help of hundreds of pro bono volunteers, people like yourselves who care passionately and want to help the cause of human rights, and now can use the Advocates as their vehicle to make a difference, to turn their caring into action. Just last year, with a budget of only around $2 million, because we work with so many volunteer professionals in the cause of human rights, we were able to bring that cause more than $13 million worth of services. So anyone who donates to the Advocates for Human Rights can be assured that their money will be multiplied many times because of our method of operation and the efficiency of our volunteer model. Tonight, as Rose told you, that's not the only way a donation would be multiplied, because some generous donors have agreed to match anything that is pledged as part of this event up to $20,000. So we hope to achieve more than $40,000 from this event for the cause of women's rights in America and around the world. This is your chance to turn your caring into action. You've already shown that you are an advocate of human rights simply by attending this event. So thank you very much, and please thoughtfully consider what you can do by way of a contribution. You can contribute on the website, and the site for the address for the website will be in the chat room, or you can text to advocates 243-725 in order to make your donation. It will go very far in a cause we all believe in. Thank you so much. Back to you, Rose.
Thank you, Jim, so much. And thank you to everyone for joining us this evening. You are all invited to the next 2 events in our Power in the Moment series. On April 22nd, we will look at the new administration's immigration reform so far and share how it has affected our legal services for asylum seekers. And on May 4th, we will explore human rights advocacy from local systems to global. Please sign up on our website to receive the Zoom details. And we now invite you to move to breakout rooms. Each room is hosted by one of our staff members or volunteers. And in a moment, the breakout rooms will open. So you can click on the icon at the bottom of the screen that looks like 4 small squares, and then you'll see the options. So feel free to choose your room to start in, and you can also move between rooms if you like and head out at any time. This is really an informal opportunity for questions and conversation. So thank you so much again for being here tonight, and I'll see you in the breakout rooms.